I still don't know who was standing outside my apartment that night. I know what I saw through the peephole. I know what I heard. And I know that the person outside knew something about me that I had never put online. The strangest part is that the whole thing started with a Craigslist ad. I posted it because I needed to get rid of an old desk. It was nothing special. A heavy wooden desk I'd had for years. I put it on Craigslist late one evening, wrote a short description, uploaded 2 pictures, and listed it for free because I just wanted it gone. About 20 minutes later, someone replied. The message said, "I'll take it. Don't delete the listing yet." I thought that was weird but not scary. I replied, asking when they wanted to pick it up. A few seconds later, another message came in. "Tomorrow. Leave it outside after midnight." I remember staring at that sentence for a while. My apartment building had a shared entrance. I wasn't leaving furniture outside overnight for a stranger, so I wrote back that they could come during the day. No response. I forgot about it until around midnight. Then someone knocked on my apartment door. 3 slow knocks. I froze. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole. Nobody was there. I waited. Nothing. Then my phone buzzed. It was a Craigslist message. "Don't look through the peephole." I stopped breathing for a second. I hadn't told anyone where I lived. I hadn't given my apartment number. I hadn't even mentioned that I was home. I stepped away from the door. Another message appeared. "You already looked." I didn't answer. I called my roommate, who was working late, but the call went straight to voicemail. Then I heard footsteps outside. Slow footsteps. They stopped directly in front of my door. I stood completely still. A few seconds passed. Then I heard a man's voice, barely above a whisper. "Is the desk still there?" I didn't respond. The footsteps moved away. I waited until I couldn't hear anything anymore before checking the hallway through the peephole. Empty. I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, I deleted the Craigslist listing. I also deleted the pictures from my phone. I told myself somebody had somehow figured out where I lived. Maybe they were messing with me. Maybe someone in the building had seen the listing and recognized the desk. There were explanations. None of them felt good. Around noon, I got another Craigslist message, except I had deleted the listing. The message said, "Why did you delete the picture?" I opened Craigslist again. The listing was still there. I refreshed the page, still there. But the photographs had changed. The first picture showed my desk exactly as I'd photographed it. The second picture showed the same desk from a different angle. I hadn't taken that picture. It was taken inside my apartment. I could tell because the edge of my couch was visible in the corner. I stared at the image for several seconds before noticing something else. There was a reflection in the dark window behind the desk. Someone was standing in the room, just a dark shape. I zoomed in. The face wasn't visible, but the person was holding a phone. I immediately called my roommate. This time he answered. I asked if he'd been inside the apartment the previous night. He said no. I asked if he'd taken a picture of the desk. He laughed and said, "Why would I do that?" I sent him the screenshot. He stopped laughing. Then he said something I'll never forget. "That's not your apartment." I thought he was joking. He wasn't. He pointed out that the window in the picture was on the wrong side of the room. I looked around. He was right. The picture showed a window behind the desk. My desk was against a wall. There was no window there. I checked the listing again. The second picture was gone. The original picture had returned. I thought maybe Craigslist had glitched. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered without speaking. For about 5 seconds, all I heard was breathing. Then a whisper. "Move the desk." The call ended. I didn't move it. Instead, I went downstairs and asked the officer working nearby if someone could check the building. Nothing was found. No broken locks, no damaged doors, no sign anyone had entered. The officer told me not to respond to strange messages and suggested I save screenshots. I did. For the rest of the afternoon, nothing happened. By evening, I was almost embarrassed about the whole thing. Then I noticed the desk. One of its drawers was open. I was certain I'd closed it. Inside was an old receipt, some batteries, and a small black key. I didn't recognize the key. I picked it up. There was a tiny piece of tape wrapped around it. Written on the tape were 2 words, Unit 3. I didn't have a Unit 3. My apartment number wasn't even close to that. I called my roommate again. He told me not to touch anything else. That night, I pushed the desk against the door. I know how ridiculous that sounds. I didn't care. Around 2 a.m., I heard something hit the floor in the living room. A loud metallic crash. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. The desk hadn't moved, but the drawer was open again. The black key was gone. I searched the floor. Nothing. Then my phone buzzed. Another Craigslist message. "You shouldn't have found that." I typed back. "Who are you?" The response came immediately. "Someone who already knows what you keep under the desk." I looked down. There was nothing under it except dust. Then I remembered something. A few months earlier, my roommate had told me that one of the floorboards near the desk was loose. I got down on the floor and pulled the desk away. The floorboard was slightly raised. I lifted it. Underneath was a small plastic bag. Inside the bag was a cheap phone. The battery was still attached. I turned it on. It had no passcode. There was only one video on it. I pressed play. The video showed my apartment. The camera was pointed toward my living room. The desk was visible. The video had been recorded at night. I watched myself walk into the room. Then I watched myself sit on the couch. I was watching a recording of myself from inside my own apartment. My stomach dropped. The timestamp was from 3 weeks earlier. I hadn't noticed the person filming. At the end of the video, the camera slowly moved. It pointed toward the hallway. Someone whispered, "He's asleep." Then the video ended. I dropped the phone. I called my roommate. He didn't answer. I called the officer. While I was waiting, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Not outside my apartment, inside it. One step, then another. I was standing in the kitchen. The hallway was behind me. I didn't turn around. I heard breathing. Close. Then a whisper. "Don't move." I turned. Nobody was there. The hallway was empty, but my bedroom door was slowly closing. I ran toward the apartment entrance. Before I reached it, the lights switched on. Every light in the apartment, at once. I stopped. The bedroom door was open again. My phone rang. Unknown number. I didn't answer. It rang again. Then again. Finally, a voicemail appeared. I played it. At first there was silence. Then I heard my own voice, not a recording from a video. My voice said, "He's looking at the phone." I threw the phone across the room. The officer arrived a few minutes later. He searched the apartment. Nothing. No person, no hidden camera, no obvious way anyone could have been inside. I showed him the phone. He took it. Then he asked me something strange. "Did you buy this desk used?" I told him yes. I had bought it from someone through Craigslist several years earlier. He stared at me. Then he asked me to check the original listing. I found it buried in my old email. The desk had been listed by someone else. The pictures were almost identical to mine. Same desk, same scratches, same broken corner, but in the final picture there was a note taped to the drawer. I zoomed in. It said, "Free. Do not remove drawer." I looked at the desk. The drawer was still open. The officer told me to leave the apartment. I did. I never went back alone. The desk was eventually removed. The phone was taken as evidence. As far as I know, nobody ever figured out who recorded those videos. A few days later, I checked my old Craigslist account one last time. There was a new message, no username, no profile, just a single sentence. "You moved the desk too late." I deleted the account. I thought that was the end. It wasn't. About a month later, I received an email from an unknown sender. There was one attachment. A photograph. I almost didn't open it. When I did, I saw my old apartment. The desk was gone. The room was empty. But someone had written on the wall where the desk used to be. 2 words. "Still watching." I never found out who took that picture. But there is one detail I didn't notice until much later. The photograph had been taken from inside the apartment, and the window was visible in the reflection. There was someone standing behind the camera. I could only see the outline, but I recognized the posture. It looked exactly like the figure in that first Craigslist photograph, and that's the part I still can't explain. Because that original photograph was supposedly taken inside my apartment 3 weeks before I ever posted the desk. I should have deleted the Craigslist ad the moment the buyer asked me a question I had never mentioned in the listing. I was selling an old answering machine. The message from the buyer said, "Does the machine still have the tape inside?" It didn't. I hadn't mentioned a tape at all. I almost ignored the message, but I had been trying to clear out my apartment, so I replied that the tape was missing. The response came less than a minute later. "Are you sure?" I remember looking at the answering machine sitting on my kitchen counter. It was an ugly little plastic box I'd found in a storage closet. I didn't even know why I'd kept it. It hadn't been plugged in for years. I typed, "Yes." The buyer replied, "Then don't throw anything away." That was it. No explanation. I should have deleted the conversation. Instead, I took a picture of the machine and sent it to my friend because the whole exchange felt strange. My friend laughed. "Maybe somebody really wants the tape." "There isn't one." "Then ask what they're talking about." I did. The buyer didn't answer. About an hour later, I heard the answering machine make a clicking sound. I was in the bathroom when it happened. I heard a little electronic beep from the kitchen, then another. I walked out expecting to see nothing. The machine's display was glowing. It wasn't plugged in. I stood there staring at it. The screen showed one message. I picked it up. The plastic felt cold. I pressed play. For several seconds, there was only static. Then I heard my own voice. "Hello?" I dropped the machine onto the counter. My voice came through the speaker again. "Hello? Can you hear me?" It sounded exactly like me. Not similar. Me. I listened to the entire recording. There was a pause. Then another voice whispered something I couldn't understand. The recording ended with 3 knocks, not on a door. They sounded like someone knocking directly against the microphone. I unplugged the machine, even though it wasn't connected. Then I put it in a kitchen cabinet. I didn't sleep well that night. At around 2 a.m., I woke up because I heard my apartment doorbell. One short buzz, then silence. I stayed in bed. A second buzz came. I checked my phone. No missed calls. I didn't go to the door. Then I heard footsteps in the hallway outside my bedroom. Slow, one step, then another. They stopped outside my bedroom door. I held my breath. Nothing happened. After maybe 30 seconds, I heard the footsteps move away. I waited several minutes before getting up. The apartment was empty. The front door was still locked. I checked the kitchen. The cabinet was open. The answering machine was sitting on the floor. I hadn't left it there. I didn't touch it. I went back to bed. The next morning, I messaged my friend and told him what happened. He suggested I throw the machine away. I agreed. Before doing that, I checked Craigslist. The buyer had sent another message. "You heard it." I stared at the screen. I replied, "How do you know?" The typing indicator appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, the message came through. "Because you always wait before opening the bedroom door." I felt sick. I hadn't told anyone that. I deleted the conversation. Then I blocked the account. I took the answering machine outside and put it in a trash container. I came back upstairs. For the first time in 2 days, I felt normal. That lasted about 3 hours. My phone rang while I was cooking. Unknown number. I answered. There was silence. Then I heard the same static from the answering machine. I hung up. The phone rang again. I ignored it. A voicemail appeared. I played it. At first there was nothing. Then I heard myself talking. "I'm not answering." I paused the voicemail. I was standing alone in my kitchen. The recording continued. "I know you're there." I stopped it. Someone knocked on my apartment door. 3 quick knocks. I froze. Then my phone rang again. This time, the caller ID showed my own number. I didn't answer. The knocking stopped. I walked toward the door and looked through the peephole. Nobody was there. I waited. Then I heard something slide across the floor outside. I opened the door a few inches. There was a small envelope on the hallway floor. No name. No address. Inside was a cassette tape. I didn't own a cassette player. On the front of the tape, someone had written, "Play after 3:15. I checked the time. 3:08. I threw the tape into the trash, then I called my friend. He came over a few minutes later. I showed him everything. He didn't laugh this time. He picked up the envelope. "Where did this come from?" "I don't know." He looked down the hallway. "Did you see anyone?" "No." "We checked the trash. The cassette was still there. My friend told me to leave it alone." At 3:15, my apartment became completely silent. Not normal quiet. No traffic, no pipes, no footsteps from neighboring apartments. Nothing. My friend noticed it too. He whispered, "That's weird." Then the answering machine rang. We both turned toward the kitchen. I had thrown it away. I was sure of that, but it was sitting on the counter. The display was glowing. 1. My friend walked toward it. I grabbed his arm. "Don't." The machine clicked. Then it began playing. My voice came through the speaker. "I'm sitting here with my friend." My friend looked at me. I hadn't said that. The recording continued. "He's looking at the machine." Then came a long silence. A second voice whispered, "Tell him not to turn around." My friend slowly looked at me. Neither of us moved. Then something knocked against the kitchen window. Hard. We both jumped. There was nothing outside. My friend checked the window. While he was doing that, I noticed something on the counter. A second cassette. It hadn't been there before. My friend turned around. "Where did that come from?" I didn't answer. We left the apartment. We spent the rest of the evening at my friend's place. I didn't go back until the next morning. The answering machine was gone. So was the second cassette. I checked every room. Nothing. For the next few days, nothing happened. I changed my phone number. I deleted Craigslist. I stopped answering unknown calls. Eventually, I convinced myself that someone had somehow gotten access to my account and was messing with me. It was terrifying, but at least it was human. Then my friend called me one evening. He sounded confused. He said someone had contacted him through Craigslist. I asked what they wanted. He said, "They're asking about your answering machine." I felt my stomach drop. I told him to block the person. He did. Then he sent me a screenshot. The account had attached a photograph. It showed my apartment, not from outside, from inside. The photograph was taken from the kitchen. The answering machine was sitting on the counter. I was standing in the background. So was my friend. The problem was that the photograph showed us both wearing the clothes we'd worn the night we first discovered the machine. Neither of us had taken that picture. My friend zoomed in. There was a clock on the wall behind us. The time on it was 3:15, but the photograph had been uploaded that afternoon. I stopped using my apartment after that. I stayed with my friend for several nights. Eventually, I moved the rest of my belongings out. I never found out who had been behind the Craigslist account. The police couldn't trace the messages to anything useful. The phone calls couldn't be connected to a real number, and the answering machine was never recovered. I thought about it less as time passed. Then, several weeks later, I received a Craigslist notification. I hadn't used the account in months. I opened it. There was one new message. The sender had no profile picture, no history, just the message. "You forgot the tape. I deleted it." Then another message arrived. "The one from before you found the machine." I stared at that for a long time, because I had never told anyone the answering machine came from my storage closet. I hadn't told my friend. I hadn't told the officer. I hadn't written it anywhere. I had simply found it there. I checked the storage closet one last time. The shelf where the machine had been sitting was empty, but behind it was something I had never noticed. A small rectangular outline in the dust. like another machine had been sitting there for years. And underneath the outline was a handwritten note. I still have the note. It says, "If you hear your own voice, don't answer the second time." I've never understood what that means. What scares me more is that the handwriting doesn't look like anyone else's. It looks like mine, and I don't remember writing it.